Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Let It BRFC podcast with me, your host, Adam Hunter. In the past week, it's been the anniversary of the Berwick v Arbroath promotion game of 2006-2007, so we've created a podcast to commemorate that. We've got some great guests lined up, and they'll be discussing some of their memories and stories from around that time. I hope you enjoy it. We've got a jam-packed episode in terms of guests this week. First up, welcome back to our co-host, former Berwick Rangers forward and current assistant manager, Kevin Haynes. How's it going, Kevin?
I'm alright, Adam, you?
Yeah, very well. How's homeschooling been?
It's been alright. I found a letter online last night and it was a government letter that somebody had obviously doctored, and it was about the kids having to go back to school on Saturdays and Sundays because they'd missed 50 days of school. So I'd said that to my daughter last night and she come through bubbling and I was thinking she was going to school for 6 months, Saturdays and Sundays included. So I've not told her yet as I wind up.
How long are you going to keep that going?
Till somebody else tells her.
Also got the author of the Mission Impossible book released in relation to that season, Chris Sanderson. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, Anne. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Obviously, it's a Geordie accent that you've got there, is it?
Kind of. A little bit further north, Ashington.
I know it well, yeah.
Northumberland.
How did you get into Berwick?
Basically, long story. I was always involved in the Northern League, Ashington and Berwickton, and then ended up refereeing. But when we were young laddies, there was a few of us used to go up from Ashington in the bus, early 80s. Jim McSherry was the manager when we first started going up, so it just stemmed from there, really.
So you've been going since the 80s?
Yeah, off and on. Obviously, we've been involved on Saturdays. You could only get up usually the start of the season because the Scottish season started that a little bit earlier. And any time when any blank Saturdays or there was any midweek games. And then once I stopped refereeing and all that, I used to get a bit more often, and then obviously ended up moving up to the west coast of Scotland. So I was going to most games quite a few times and covering games for the newspapers up there. So I've been going since the early 80s. Seen a lot of ups and downs.
Oh, I bet. Mark Swanston, fan and former trust secretary, also joins us. Hello, Mark.
Adam, you okay, mate?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much. You've seen before, you've moved away from the town, haven't you?
I have. And first, thanks for having me. It's good to be in esteemed company for this call today, I think. But I moved away in 2015, so I'd been in Berwick all my life prior to that, up until the sort of age of 30 or so. But moved away for work reasons a few years ago now.
Have you been back?
Specifically Berwick Rangers or Berwick upon Tweed? Probably two slightly different answers. Embarrassingly, considering the entirety of both sides of my wife and I's family are in Berwick upon Tweed, we haven't been back in 2.5 or 3 years. At least I've got lockdown to use as a little bit of an excuse for the moment, to be fair. But no, we've not been back a huge amount in the last few years, it would be fair to say. I haven't seen Berwick at all since sort of 14-15, unfortunately, but obviously keep a very close eye on everything that's happening through the scores and online and whatnot.
We've got our captain, leader, legend present too. Hello, Grant McNicoll.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
What have you been up to?
Not a great deal in the lockdown. Got 2 young children, so they've been keeping us on our toes. My wife's a school teacher, so we've got the added help of some homeschooling from her. Just doing what every other family's doing just now. Out for walks, enjoying the sun, the usual. Yeah, I've been doing a bit of running myself. Trying to do odd jobs around the house, but yeah.
You've done that 5K challenge?
I did, yes. I did it on Wednesday. I think I did it in, 22 minutes, I think. I think it was about 7 minute, 18 miles I was doing. So it was quite difficult. I usually go a bit longer in terms of running. I usually do about 6 miles. So yeah, I did that.
We had one of the boys showing their times this week, and they were up at 18 minutes odd for the 5K.
Scary, eh? Absolutely scary.
Aye, but of the pause during that,
What's now known as the Ross Barkley version. I don't know if anybody's seen it online, but has anybody seen the Ross Barkley one where he done it in sort of sub-16? And then if you look at his elapsed time on Strava, I think he'd just been running down a hill, pausing it, walking back up and repeating 5 times.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. Aye. It's now been named that, isn't it?
Aye.
have you been up to Berwick recently, Grant?
I can't. I think the last game I was at was it the defeat to East Kilbride? I'm not sure. I try and go down as often as I can with either Harrison or Big Gary O'Connor. Just when I've got time on a Saturday, really. I try and obviously vary what I do at the weekends, but I try and get down maybe 3 or 4 times a season to sort of keep up with things. And we often go down to meet Robert as well, Robert Johnson, just to catch up with him because we still keep in contact with him. But yeah, I'll try and get down when I can, when the wife allows me.
Looking back on your time with Berwick, how was it?
Yeah, it was very, very fond memories of my time at Berwick. I was there for about 11 years. So yeah, I left there. I left Hearts and went to Berwick with Paul Smith, although Jimmy Thompson signed me. Smudger took over the reins. And yeah, I had, like I say, I had 11 seasons there where I think I played nearly 300 games, and we had some fantastic characters and some fantastic cup games throughout the times I spent there. I think we played Celtic, we played Rangers, we played Hearts twice, and we played Aberdeen twice in various cup tournaments. But yeah, I've got nothing but fond and great memories of my time at Berwick. Met some great characters, friends for life, guys that I regularly see and keep in touch with. So yeah, it was great. I miss it. Yeah, I miss playing. I miss the banter of the dressing room, and yeah, everything that comes with playing football. I think Kevin could probably relate to that when he stopped playing, but obviously he's still involved in coaching capacity. But yeah, I've got a great affiliation for Berwick and the club.
Did you ever think about getting into coaching?
In all honesty, no. It's something that didn't really appeal to me. Ideally, I wanted to play as long as I could and as I can. I tried to do that, obviously, once leaving Berwick, but it's not something that really jumped out at me. I've got quite a young family, so they've sort of taken over my life as such, and to commit to coaching, you know, you have to be there 3 times a week, and I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, so on top of being self-employed, it probably wouldn't work for me just now.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling it out. Once Harrison gets maybe involved in football and starts becoming a bit better and going to clubs, etc., then I might think about it. But no, it's not something that really appealed to me. It was more the playing side that attracted me.
I had a fan on last week, and he said that you were his favourite player.
Must be the only fan then.
Did you were good that he done the ball?
Well, I wasn't graced with the ball at my feet, was I? I won my headers and my tackles, that's all I did. I was never blessed with dribbling skills like yourself, big man. No, I stuck to the basics, and I think that got me through the years down there.
That's what we tell the players all the time, and get the basics right, and you're halfway there.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's no point in me trying to kick people on that I can pass the ball or ping it 70 yards when I couldn't, or beat players for that fact. You're given a job to do as a centre half or a defender, and yeah, I wasn't the biggest by any means, or weight wise in terms of centre halves you see in the current game, and even when I was playing, I was 12 stone. Still am 12 stone. My weight's never changed, and what I lacked in other parts of the game, I made up with probably being quite quick. And again, for someone who's relatively small as a centre half, I won most of the aerial battles I was in, and I could time a challenge pretty well. But if you take these out of the game, then I wouldn't be playing. I mean, heading and tackling was my game. John will probably second that. And
you're very good at both of them.
I was good at both of them, but certainly not a gifted footballer in terms of creating chances and making play.
sorry to interrupt, but back then it wasn't as important for centre-backs to carry the ball forward and be part of the game and set up attacks as it is now. You know, it's a completely different ball game now, excuse the pun, but everything about football seems to have changed. So what was required at the time was to defend well, which is what you did.
Yeah. First and foremost, that was your job, to defend well, to protect your keeper, and we did that well that season that we won the league,
John,
Haynes, could you tackle?
No, great. I got there as quick as I could.
You're just early for the next tackle.
That's it, aye. Nah, tackling was my strong point. If I'm totally honest, I like to go in a wee bit late, but that was just kind of how I was.
And finally, we're joined by our former manager, the special one, John Coughlin. How are you, John?
Very well, thank you.
Good stuff. What have you been up to?
Not a lot. Back working again, just like the rest of the guys. Not at the minute, obviously, because of the current climate, but back working again. Gently sliding into semi-retirement at 57-year-old. Had a bit of a fallow period with football. Didn't do anything after I was there for a while, and then started to pick up little jobs. Going to watch clubs and teams and players for other clubs. Currently doing a little bit for Sanderson on the scouting side, which is another one of my former clubs. So more or less that's it. Keeps me busy on a Saturday, which is good. Keeps your hand in, as you say, and that's pretty much it. And just like everybody else is waiting for the lockdown to be over so we can get back out and start enjoying life again.
Yeah, I saw you, Gala. I think it was Gala away. It was the last time I saw you at a game. What was your thoughts of Berwick?
I can see Big Kevin here.
I'll shut my ears
on that particular game.
Yeah, just the difference, obviously, from when you'd left the second time to seeing we're performing the Lowland League.
There's a completely different set of players there as well. I mean, dropped down a division, obviously, and I don't know the budget constraints or managerial decisions to get rid of some of the players. I mean, although I left the club, obviously under a cloud, results only went well, and I had to go. I thought I left a pretty good squad of players there. They get the Mikey McKennas of this world and people like that don't come around every week to clubs like Berwick, and they left fairly quickly. There was guys here that obviously stayed the remainder of that season, but the new manager Robbie came in and started to break that up and thought he had a handle on players that could do a job more effectively for probably less money. Didn't quite work out that way, and obviously he was followed by Johnny Harvey, who had a similar thought, that he had a lot of contacts in junior football and could put a team in the park that would get the club moving forward again, and we know how that finished up, So, I feel, although it didn't work out for me in the second period there at the end, that, there was a decent squad of players there. Sometimes you either change your players or you change your manager. The club took the decision to change your manager, but the playing staff was pretty decent on a relatively similar budget to what followed it. So the need to change all these players and bring players in who I feel, and I've got to be honest, are a lesser calibre, has affected the club and probably put it where it is now. And it's in a situation now where obviously the present incumbents, one of them here with us, Big Kevin, and obviously Yano, another of his teammates and friends, has got a hell of a job in their hands to try and get back into the Scottish League. And that comes down to a lot of things. The first one being hard work, but obviously if they can be helped out financially by Brian Porteous and the rest of the new board members, then great. The local community, there's a lot of things going on there, I see, on the various social media sites regarding trying to fundraise, but that's going to be a huge factor, whether they've got the money to try and turn it around again and bring a standard of player back to the club that's going to affect that change. At the minute, and we discussed this before we started the show very briefly, that's a really tough league. The Lowland League, I watch a lot of that for Sanderson, looking at trying to identify players there. And with some really good players and some really good teams there. It's going to take a bit of work to get Berwick challenging for that league, never mind getting them out of it. Would that be something you would agree with, or would that be something that you would argue?
I think you're right in terms of the calibre of players. Obviously, when you were last year, John, I think there's a lot of players there that are still within the senior ranks, isn't there? You just mentioned obviously Mikey McKenna. He's at Arbroath now, is he?
Yes, yeah.
we were both playing in the Championship, you know, and went on to be a very, very good player for them, you know, through the promotion to the Championship and stayed in the team. You know, the Darren Laverty's boys like that were there for years who did good service, Stevie Norton and these type of boys, you know. There was a few good players there. But, you know, at the end of the day, the results are what counts. I know that better than anybody. You know, I've worked 20-odd seasons in football, so I know how it works. And it doesn't matter how good you think the squad is, if they don't get results, then somebody's got to pay the price, and I did. But I still felt that there was a core of players there who could have kept Berwick in the league. And okay, it might have been a struggle and a fight to try and get them moving forward again, but they still would have been in the Scottish League. As it stands at the minute, you've got a hell of a job getting back out of there again, as you'll probably appreciate.
Definitely. And like we said before, I think I said it last week, the Scottish League will look a lot different in 5 years' time because of the ambition of the Lowland League clubs and the Highland League clubs. That there'll be a lot of casualties. There'll not just be us and East Stirling that are the casualties. There'll be another 3, 4, 5, and the league will look a lot different, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you know, I know what you're saying. There's East Stirling, you know, for instance, have had a massive influx of money this year, and it hasn't really affected their chances. You know, there's more to it than that, and that's something that they're going to have to learn the hard way as well, I think. You know? Kelty have had a massive influx of money. I'm talking about quite possibly doing something like that. It's a very, very tough league. The teams coming into the league will have a go. You know, Bonnerick, if they eventually get there, or will get there at some stage, you know, are going to have another shot at it. You know, so there's some really, really good sides in there. But, you know, best of luck to you. It's a tough job. I know down there twice. Really, really tough job for anybody, and it's proven that for many managers down there. So, you know, as I say, best of luck to you guys in trying to get moved forward again. Did
you find a problem, John, with attracting players to Berwick in terms of the distance and far people have to travel, etc.?
Yep, absolutely, no doubt. It's a good question. It's one that everybody asks. I mean, most of the managers who have worked there will tell you the same. People glazed over. I used to go through the Central Belt, and I was always one for jumping in my car, and wherever the player was I wanted to sign, I would drive to him. Didn't matter where it was in Scotland, try and make that happen. You know, it was never done by text message or phone calls or anything like that. I wanted to meet the person. I wanted to, as old-fashioned values, I suppose, try and meet them face to face and see what was in their eyes and try and make sure that, you know, I was getting them on board in terms of they had a bit of faith in me and they wanted to come to the club, and it wasn't purely about financial gain. But there is no doubt that the extra incentive of a couple of quid helps, you know, when you're having to make that journey for the Central Belt or Glasgow to training in Edinburgh 2 nights a week and down to Berwick on a Saturday. You know, and I don't think the appetite is there for players to do that now. You know, I think that's gone. I think it's really difficult. Edinburgh has always been the major point of contact for players, the surrounding areas, trying to bring players in for there, and I don't think that's ever going to change. I know the club in my time, and probably in your time, have floated the idea about trying to bring players up from the north of England. You know, I tried that latterly when I was there in the second period with 1 or 2 players, and it didn't quite work out either. You know, some good players coming up for that neck of the woods, but you were having to pay through the nose to get them to come and play there. And you can see why, because of the amount of travel and the amount of time that it takes. So it's always been an issue, and it always will be an issue. I don't think there's any way that you can change that now. You know, even going back to the time when we put the team together and the Championship winning team together, you know, the core of the players came from the Edinburgh area. We had the influx of Jordan Smith and Chris McGorty and Ian Kayak and 1 or 2 like that came in from the West. That was down to good contacts and knowing people prior to being at the club. But that was it. You know, there wasn't that many players that came and travelled. You know, there were the core of players there, and when we talk about team spirit and all the rest of it, there's possibly an element of that in there. There was a tight bond because all the guys almost lived in each other's doorstep. So there might have been an element of that. And to me, that's always been a kind of cyclic thing. You know, you're not going to be able to produce a team like that every 2 or 3 seasons. It's, you know, every 10 years, maybe something like that. You'll get a group that fall into place. There are a lot of players that came to that club from, you know, East of Scotland leagues and junior leagues that people thought, Christ, who is this guy? I've never heard of this guy. How's he going to improve us? But they did. Bit of luck in there yet, but it was down to the players at the end of the day being good enough to play. I suppose that's the task that you've got now is finding the best players in the local area that you can get for reasonable money, which I know is pretty hard to do.
It is, aye, and that's the biggest problem that I seem to come up against, and I think Jano's the same, is, the clubs that are within this area now that you're talking about, your Bonnyriggs, and they're all offering more money than we can offer with less travel. So, trying to entice a player is hard right from the very beginning for those two factors.
There's an attitude change as well to players, and I don't know if it's a society thing. I'm not going to get too deeply into it, but the need to be a professional football player, or the want or the desire, was what it was all about. When you came out of school, that's all you wanted to do. That doesn't seem to be the case now. I know guys at 26, 27, 28, got the first kid on the way. That's more important. They'll do that, and it is important. I get that. But they don't want to do the travelling. They would, move away from senior football because of the requirements to travel and the time it takes to play with the local clubs. Well, they were getting similar kind of dough. So what was the point to them? Where in the past, the money was never the driving force. It was about the fact that you want to do the best you could, play as high a level as you could for as long. And I don't see that attitude, coming through now with some of the players that are playing. I might be wrong. I might be an old man being grumpy. That usually happens, but that's the way I look at it at the minute.
John, do you think that challenge that you and Hainsey talk about regards recruitment for Berwick was almost a bit of a catalyst for what happened in 06, 07? I think when we went and brought in, some relatively unheard of lads like maybe Tomo or Robbie Manson or all of those sorts of guys. Do you think that the hunger and the desire for that league stature was something that you were able to harness in the squad for that season?
Yeah, well, if we take Ian Thompson and as an example, Ian played at Spartans, and Spartans were winning that league most seasons at that time. They were the strongest team in the East of Scotland League.
Yeah.
There was a ceiling there for Ian Thompson. That was as high as he could go. He couldn't win anymore with Spartans, so the next step was to try and go senior.
Yeah.
He obviously played well against us. I think it's Chris has documented it in the book. I had a look through the book, I have to say, do a bit of research before coming on, trying to get some facts back in my mind. Tomo played in the good Spartans team that beat us in the Scottish Cup.
Right.
And, I knew Tomo through Tom Henry, who was a school teacher who I worked with for years, various other people who were working in the background for me. A lot of them had come through the school system, and they were raving about Tomo and Robbie Manson and a lot of guys like that were playing at that level, thinking they could definitely come and improve your team. But there is a bit of reluctance. You're thinking, how's this going to go down with people? Are they going to hit the ground running? Are they going to be good enough? You don't know until you try. You take chances. Kevin's at the bottom of my screen right now, and a lot of people had said to me, you're not hiding anything. You're taking a chance here because Kevin's a bit of a loose cannon, and he's a big tough guy, which he is, and he's this, that, and the other. But what he was a fantastic football player. So get him in the team. And then deal with it after that, and it proved to be the right thing. He had his moments, but
we'll not talk about them, John.
Sometimes you've got to take a chance, and sometimes it's budget driven. You've not got a lot of money; it fits into your budget. Other times it's because you've seen the player, you've done your research, you think the player's better than what you currently got. And sometimes there's a bit of luck attached to it, and maybe a bit of all these things together gets you where you need to be. But the Thompsons and the Mansons and people like that, there's a few other lads that came through from that level, all surpassed anything that we thought they were going to be able to achieve.
Yeah.
And they all integrated within the team and gelled with the current squad fantastically. They were great additions, and they improved the squad and they bedded themselves in with the current boys that were there. I think, as John just said, there's always that gamble with taking these players that are, maybe not very well recognised within the Berwick community or, whatever club they're going to. But they all had a big part to play in that season and following seasons.
We had guys like yourself and Robbie, and Big Gary O'Connor, guys like that had been round the block a few times, in terms of good experience, a lot of senior games under their belt, knew the leagues. And were good guys as well, made sure that everybody was welcome when they came in the door. My job was to put them into formation and try and make sure that we got everybody on the same page in terms of what we were trying to achieve. But a lot of the policing came from the experienced players in the dressing room. And I don't think we've ever had these discussions, you know. I mean, I don't keep in touch with a lot of the guys, but that's something that I would openly say on camera. You know, you can't do it without the senior football players. It's as simple as that. Going back to one of the questions that Kevin asked earlier about players and bringing them in, you've got to have that core, and that core, some of more experienced players sometimes cost you that wee bit more money. But for me, it's money well spent if you can get your dressing room full of people who know what they're doing, good experienced guys, good types, and good players. And if you can get that and blend with the young talent, the legs coming through the door that were coming in as we brought them in, then we would have a chance, you know.
Yeah, you had as you say, John, you had a sort of a spine or a backbone of a good core of players there, that the desire to win something, you know, it was all we really wanted to do, having, you know, failed the previous season. But you know, from the back to the front, with Gary, you know, myself, Robbie, you had Dodd, you had Haynes and Woodsy, you had that spine, and you also a wealth of experience as well. And I think it did, the blend of Edinburgh and the West Coast boys and these new additions, it just all seemed to work. And going back to what you said, you know, these teams don't come about every other season. It takes time to actually develop that and build that. And yeah, what John said earlier, probably every 8 to 10 years, these things will happen and these teams will come together. So yeah, spot on with what we've said so far.
I think what resonated with me was the fact that we'd lost so many players for a decent side the season before that. Obviously, you know, failing at the last hurdle, but losing. I mean, Matt Cowan was a fantastic player for Berwick. You know, a really, really top-notch centre back at that level of football, and that was a big blow, huge blow to try and fill that hole. You know, because he was a magnet for the ball. You know, in terms of defensive work that he did in the box was excellent. So you know, there's 4 or 5 players left, and you know, again, well documented, moved on to Stennismuir for more money, and that was a big void to try and fill. But thankfully, we managed it.
Mark, what do you think? Well, what was the reaction to that within the fan base? Obviously, we've lost 5 senior players. We had Danny Swanston that was out virtually for the full season, and Ian Little also. He only came back at the end of the season. So what was it like within the fan base?
I think in the back of your mind, you're wondering if our chance had gone almost at that point, you know, because we'd come so close the previous season, gone right down to the wire with Alloa, and I think you're almost a little bit concerned at the start of the season. You know, we've got these unknown quantities coming in that we're now talking about in terms of the positive reaction that they were able to have. At the time, you just really weren't that sure. You know, can we go that close again? I think on the guys who left for Stenhousemuir, you know, there was a fair bit of ill feeling, I think it would be fair to say, and I think if I remember correctly, they came down to Berwick pretty quickly early doors that season. I think they were there in the August time and came and won at Shielfield, and we gave them pelters, you know, especially when we were up at Stenny in particular away, we gave them pelters. And I remember I think Kevin McLeish in particular biting back to the ducket, and the away support at Stenny on more than one occasion, especially when we went up at the tail end of the season flashing medals and inflatables and all that sort of stuff. But I think the fan base at the time, at the beginning of the season, was probably just a bit unsure, but also buoyed probably to an extent by what we'd seen in the previous season, having come down in 05-06. You know, we were brilliant that first season as well when Hainsey joined the club, and with that sort of core group of players still around. You know, I'll probably never forget the 4-0 away win up at East Fife and right at the start of that season. So I think we were still quite positive around the playing squad. There was a good connection between the management, the players, and the fans at the time. So sort of nervous trepidation, I think, probably at the beginning of that second season.
Grant, you had the opportunity to sign for Stenny at the start of that season, I think I read.
That's right, yeah. I got a phone call from Des McEwen, and yeah, he basically put a deal on the table for me, much like the guys who had left. I actually met Des. I met him at the Marriott Hotel out by the casino at the end of the Glasgow Road. Sat down and chatted through things with him. I think I went there knowing. Hello.
I was at the next table. I was a guy sitting with a false moustache and the coat with the
Talking to another centre half.
I often thought that, I wondered if that was you, John. But no, I mean, I think I went there just out of curiosity to see what he had to say and what he had to offer. But I went there knowing that I wasn't going to put pen to paper. My loyalty was with Berwick, and I wanted to remain there and challenge for honours and stay with my close friends and teammates that I had made over the years. So, yeah, it was never something that was going to lure me or attract me away from the club. But yeah, like I say, I just went along to see what he had to say and what he had to offer. And, decision-wise, I made the right decision because we won the league that year. So, yeah, I think that was the one and only offer or chance I had to leave the club. Yeah, thankfully I didn't do it.
Yeah, you've been vindicated by that, haven't you?
Definitely.
Also tapped up by another manager, which is now being recorded. So we never do that. We've never done that. No, you're smirking, Kevin. I can see that you maybe dallied in that one.
Nah, I follow the rules, John.
Follow the rules, correct.
Did you find it difficult to rebuild the squad, John? Look, obviously we've come so close the year before. We just missed out on goal difference. We're down to the bare bones in the playoff games, so it took a bit of a hammering away at Alloa. Did you find it hard having to start again and sort of reset?
You look at the loss of Ian Little, for instance. Ian Little plays in your team every week, and he's out for almost the entire season. Danny Swanston plays in your team almost every week. The young boy was a hell of a talent. There was always a chance that we were going to make some money on him and sell him on, and he would further his career. So they were two players that were key. And you're thinking when you come out at the end of the season, you're looking at the new team, thinking, okay, we've got some ability in this team, and you lose the players that we lost that we've just discussed, and then you add that pair onto that, and that's a hammer blow. So I've always felt that's a crucial time. I mean, I think the season fails or is successful by what happens in that kind of 6-week window for the end of the season to the start of the new one. That period when you get into pre-season games, when you've got trialists in the door, out the door, in the door, I mean, it's just it's a bit of a lottery, to be honest. A lot depends on what you've got going on in the background. The people who the players will never see, they were out doing jobs for me and working for me and keeping an eye on what's going on and making sure that I was getting good information was so important. And if you trust their judgment and you have a go at that, then it can work in your favour, and that's what we did. With a lot of people working away diligently behind the scenes, making sure that they're keeping an eye on what was going on, and I think that was key to the rebuilding process. As I say, things fall into place, and you get lucky at times. You manage to persuade one or two who are maybe on the cusp of joining another club, and it does, as I said earlier, again, it's not always about money. It's about making sure that they have faith in you. So it's important that you have those face-to-face discussions with them and make sure that you lay your plans out. You're as honest as possible with them and you treat them properly and hope that that's enough to get them over the line. It's a difficult time. There's never a manager, I would think, that enjoys that period, the wheeling and dealing. I've also felt this, just to go for a tangent a little bit, this period, and especially in the lower divisions where, Montrose or East Stirling, I'm just naming throwing clubs out there, where releasing players that are not good enough, and you're replacing your players that you think are they good enough. And, they go sign for another one, and you sign some of them. You might sign some players that take a chance on this just because they fit the budget. There's always an element of doubt in what you're doing. It's not until you get them on the pitch, get them on the training pitch, get them into games, you actually find out whether you've been successful or not. When you get through, I think we went on the championship winning season. We started the season really well, and with a long series of wins, which obviously vindicates the signing policy. But there's nothing exciting about it for me. It's just hard work, and there's a lot of sweat and tears, hoping that it's all going to come together. And thankfully it did. But I don't know what Kevin's thoughts are, in terms of putting the team together, because obviously it's you've been doing it for a few years now at various levels, but it's a difficult period. I've always found it that way.
Aye, it is, and it's probably, like you say, it's the bit that you probably least enjoy. If you could re-sign your team and get everything done, early in the summer, then you kind of get time to relax, and then you're ready to go come July. But if you didn't get that team in place early, then it's horrible. It's a horrible summer, and it sounds bad, but if you're needing to fill one position, you've maybe got, if you need one centre half, you're maybe speaking to 4 because you're not going to get, the one that you want in a lot of the time. So although you find that you're needing to sign one player, you're talking to 4. You've got them bubbling away, and you've got people that are, like you say, that you trust, or you trust their judgment, that are throwing names at you all the time, and you've got to try and get the opportunity to go and watch them or do whatever you need to do. But going back on, obviously, the recruitment of that season that you're talking about there, Adam and John, I think Gary Wood's coming back was massive to that season. Signing him was, it was a massive step towards that league winning side, because they knew the club, and he played various positions, John, didn't he? Centre half and forward, and he was an 8 out of 10 every week.
Nah.
I always thought that he was key. With losing all the players and getting Woodsy back, I thought that was key to that success.
You kind of have to lay a marker down sometimes, lay a marker down for the opposition to see that you mean business, and that was a big signing for, I think it was at Queen of the South for 3 seasons. And obviously that financially, the club were no wash with cash at that time, so they had to find the money for somewhere. But they managed to do it, and it was a great signing. You're right, it just galvanised everybody as well, that we could actually achieve that signing and get him in our team. And I think it threw down the gauntlet to a few other clubs, to be fair, at that time.
In terms of standout moments, Chris, what is yours?
Oh, well, obviously the day we won the league. There's only been 2 championship winning sides in all them years when at Berwick, and I was lucky enough to be there on the day of that one. So that one, that obviously is the big standout. There's a few games along the way. I remember a game at East Fife. I didn't get to every game that season, so I used to have to go where the Sunday Mail centres. And I remember a game at East Fife, I think it would be the turn of the year. They had started the season pretty well. They were up there was ourselves, them, Arbroath. And that game for me, I think we won 2-0. Big Kevin ripped them apart. The game for me, that was where I thought, I can see us winning this league this year. I thought we were outstanding that day. That for me was one of the best games. There was a midweek game at East Stirling, which I think we talked about through the week, Adam. That was another one. It was one of them nights. East Stirling was struggling at the time, but it was always a hard place to go. I think Ian Dyack scored late on. That was a key win. I don't know if you remember this one, Joe. The Stenhousemuir game, I think it was about March. They absolutely battered us that day, but somehow carried a bit of luck. Won that one 2-1. Oh, there was some great games that season. Some great games. That East Fife one sticks out for me. There's always been a bit of rivalry between ourselves and them. And I thought that day, coming away from Bayview, I thought, I can see us winning this league this year. We'll look very strong, very strong.
That rivalry spilled onto the coaching staff as well, because it was an ongoing battle every time we played them. I think Dave Bakey, who's a really nice guy, had 1 or 2 guys working with him at the time who, dear, my coaching staff and their coaching staff were each other's throats all the time. Dave and I were watching the game, but they were watching each other. I think the tension was building all the time between the clubs, and people could buy into that. And certainly the performances against East Fife went a long way to achieving what we did.
Look at the Arbroath results that season. We had beat them 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, beat them twice. I remember early doors up there. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd game of the season. We won up there, not a league game. We won the return game. I think it was October or November. So I know they beat with, I don't know, about the February or something. Maybe it was the turn of the year. But their results against Arbroath turned out key in the end.
Yeah.
So it was, with the 6 points we took off them before then, at the end of the season, they were worth our weight in gold when it was down to a couple of points between us and them at the end of the season.
I'm sure we played them in the Scottish Cup that year as well.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Gary Wood scored from the halfway line, virtually.
Chipped the goal,
that's right. Up the hill, wasn't it?
I think
yes.
I'm sure. I think if you look over the season, though, I mean, even the sides that were down the bottom, the likes of East Stirlings and a couple of, you were not guaranteed to go to these places and win every week. No. You were going to have to go there and work. I think the Shire finished bottom of the league that season. As I say, I know the midweek game we went there, we had to work very, very hard. We went there, I think it was the week before just before the Arbroath game, maybe it was the fourth last game of the season. Won 3-0, but there was no easy games. It was a hard, if you look at the teams across the board that season, there were no easy games.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was just about to say that in that sort of league in that era, every game you went into, it was always going to be a tough, difficult tie. You're never going to win by 4 or 5 goals. It was so competitive from top of the league to the bottom of the league. And it was the same week in, week out. And I think looking back on that season and the season before, it was the same. That the standard of the league and each team, they were also similar. There was no easy tie.
Was there anything that stood out for you, Grant, that year? Obviously, up until the Arbroath game.
My memory's not that great.
That's 2 of us.
I can't remember individual games like Chris has mentioned, but no, I mean the season as a whole. I think I played maybe 25, 26 games that season, and it was just a great end to the year, winning the league that year. There was no standout games that I can honestly remember.
Did you have a feeling as the league season was progressing that actually I think we're going to win this?
I think it was always at the back of your mind that, having come so close the year before, that that was the ultimate goal and the ultimate challenge was to win that. Yeah, and I think as the season progressed, I think we went on 8 games in the bounce unbeaten. Is that right? So during that sort of phase and spell, yeah, it was probably starting to creep into players' minds that this could potentially be the year. Yeah, I think we won it. I've got a few notes here for myself. 75 points. Yeah. So, and the year before, I've noted a few things down. We went 7 games in the bounce and 14 unbeaten. So, and we ended up with 76 points. So, yeah, it was close competitive in those 2 seasons.
The previous season, Grant, I think we won the first 7 games of the season. And it was ourselves, Chelsea and Rangers were the only teams, I think, in Britain that were unbeaten after 7 games.
Well, yeah, I've got that. I've got that written down now. 7 games on the bounce we won, yeah.
We won our first 7 games.
Doesn't happen very often these days, does it?
Oh, no.
Granny, I'm quite impressed you taking notes there.
Oh, yeah. Lockdown gives you that little bit extra time, eh? So, yeah.
That's quite impressive. I'm going to start doing that, I think.
A bit of revision last night. Hopefully you'll not stumble me up on any further questions or my notebook here.
And Mark, I guess same question. Was there anything that stood out for you during that season?
I think to build on certainly what the guys are saying, and Chris in particular as well, there are probably so many standout moments, although perhaps my memory of some elements of the season might be a little bit shady, either through age or probably mostly through our kind of pre-match activities that we were going through that particular season. I think there was me and a few others around about the time. Didn't miss a minute of that season. There was a sort of core of us that were there right the way throughout it, really. And I think the long winning run that everybody remembers, the kind of eight or so match, I think, consecutive winning streak was a fantastic period for us, and we felt turning up every Saturday that we could beat anybody at that particular time, and that was fantastic as well. But so many memories. I think, to Chris's point, the standout for me where things really started to change was the Shire games. When we went up there on the Tuesday night in early March and we scraped a late win. I think we came away that night kind of thinking, we've got a real chance here. I think something special might be starting to happen, and we were back up there within 2 or 3 weeks for an away game on a Saturday and won fairly comfortably. And I think by that point we all knew that something special was happening, and we hit form towards that run-in from the kind of middle of March right through to the end of the season at the absolutely perfect time. But I mean, so many good standout memories. Really, just the camaraderie and the supporter base. Those of us that were sort of going week in and week out and knew that something was happening. But also, as I mentioned as well, I think that the relationship between John and his team, Haynes, Granty, and everybody else, and the playing staff, Robbie Horn, and all those sorts of guys with the supporters at the time was as good as I can ever remember it.
Going back to that Arbroath game, and I don't know how you remember it, Granty or John. But for the fans' perspective, it must have been a shite game, that Arbroath game, that last game.
Because
it was horrible to play in. I remember it being absolutely horrible and no joy in it. And obviously it's different. We obviously had a goal to achieve, and you had to kind of work to that goal. But watching it, like for you three boys, it must have been a horrendous game.
It was the longest 90 minutes I can remember. And one of the big things I remember from that game was the goalie had disallowed.
Yeah.
It was just, here we go again. Lightning strikes twice, or so, and then all of a sudden the flag went up. But it seemed like an age before the referee caught the lightning flag. But it wasn't, other than Diak's goal, I can't, to be honest, and that the offside, the goal that was disallowed for them, the free kick on Gary O'Connor, there's not really much stands out in it. It's just one of them games from my point of view. Don't know what Mark thinks. You're on the terrace on the sideline there. You just want the game over with. You just wanted to win it. That was just, it didn't matter how you done it, as long as you did it. I've seen better 90 minutes.
I think you'd said that you'd been up at the Arbroath game the week before, hadn't you?
I've covered that game the week before. The Sunday Mail had sent us up, and obviously you didn't get the results as quick then as what you do now with your phones and that. They were playing Queen's Park. I think Queen's Park were out of the race. They were in a playoff place. Arbroath had beat them 1-0, and I was down pitch side at the end of the game. They were, I wouldn't say they were giving it high fives because they'd won. They were obviously, buoyant because they were obviously had to come to Berwick the following week. And then they found out that we'd won at Albion, and you could see there was a little bit of, I think they were hoping Albion were going to do them a favour. You could see a little bit of dejection on their faces because obviously they didn't know who I was or my connection with Berwick. I understand watching at the side of the park when they're coming off and they're hearing the score, Berwick's going again, and you can see a little bit of, I think they were hoping for a favour off Albion because if we'd slipped up that game, they could have been in the box seat with a win at Berwick. So but there was a little bit of dejection. But I can't remember who was. I think it was Willie Martin I interviewed. There was one or two comments. I'm not sure if it was Willie or might be one of the other press members was interviewing, and what they were going to come down and do, and that obviously got passed on so. But no, it was always going to go down the wire, I think, so. And thankfully, we just got over the line at the end of the day.
And the rest is history.
Oh, aye. One of the best days of my footballing life, Grant. You don't see many, we've only seen 2 titles down there in 100 and odd years, so to see that was great, especially after what happened the previous season, like Mark said. We had such a good side. We just fell short. In most seasons we would have won that league with the points tally that we had, and it was goal difference. And it was, I think the most annoying thing for me was we would have gone up. Any other season we would have gone up, and that was the first season that the playoffs came in.
Yeah, I think we beat Cowdenbeath 3 times in that.
Aye, we did, John.
They went on to win.
It's that was the longest summer of my life after that. Well, that year, I just I was scunned with football, just coming so close. Like your boys, you put the effort in, and it was a matter of, it was goal difference, and then to lost half the team, like you say, and then to come back. I think that was why it was that special, because I don't think many people were expecting it at the start of the season. After maybe it's going to be a year of rebuilding. These things don't happen overnight, so I think from my point of view, it was just something we weren't expecting. I think that made it all the more magical.
I think you had as well, when the players left, you had 5 guys who were household names and they played a lot of football, and they were well known at that level of football, and you were bringing in guys who were unknown quantities, and that's difficult for the fans to relate to. I think we should be replacing them with similar guys who have been around the block, and obviously are well known to them. It didn't quite happen that way, but as I say, I keep saying it worked out for us in the end. These meetings and conversations with players, and one by one telling me that they were leaving for basically for money. There's no other way to put it. We're leaving for more cash was galling. That was heart wrenching. You were losing a lot of good players for that side. You knew it was going to be could have been detrimental to you. and just down to cash at the end of the day, and that was a calling thing for me. Good guys, that's the nature of the game, isn't it? Somebody else gives you a few extra quid and you're on your bike normally, so they did that. But it was a really, really tough period to have the heartbreak of losing or going so close to winning the league that season, to then find out you were losing 5 of your players. That was a tough time to take.
You had other problems and all, John, didn't you, to kind of to get over? I mean, you lost Gary Wood early doors. You had that fractured eye socket. Was it the Hamilton Cup game? And then you lost your training base and all, didn't you? You were scratching around for somewhere to train.
Yeah, it must have been a grammar. We were training up there, and there was some sort of asbestos scare. So I mean, that was almost a disaster for us. I was at that period at Berwick. I would have all the training kit in the back of my car, and I'd be phoning around schools and colleges and trying to find places to train. And then I would have to relay that to players. We were all over the shop at the time, and then it was take the stuff out of the car, trade, put the stuff back in the car, move on to the next training base. That allied to the fact that you're right regarding Gary Wood, with the serious injuries that he had, Stevie Notman injured for a long period of time. A lot of players missed a lot of time. The other thing is the amount of red cards that we had, which we overcame as well, because we had a lot of problems with, let's say, bad discipline. I know you're smiling, I can see you.
I wondered when you were going to bring that up.
Well, about 40 minutes into it, so. But I had that all through my time, even my second period, we had and I don't know, I sometimes try and relate to the way that I was quite aggressive as a player and as a manager, and tried to maybe get that installed into my team, but maybe they took it too far. And if you did that with somebody like Kevin, who was a naturally competitive character, and Gary, who was a naturally competitive character, then it was maybe just pushing it just too far, So we certainly want to be wanting in terms of looking after ourselves, but that could have derailed us, the amount of times that we players. I think Gary missed the last 5 games of the season through suspension, if I remember right. I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure he missed a long period of time. But a lot of players missed a lot of football because of that, so that almost tripped us up. But thankfully not. You're off the hook.
That probably just shows as well, John, that how good a signing Dyak was. You know what I mean? Because you got Dyak in during the season, didn't you?
Yeah. He wasn't playing. I don't think he'd been playing at Stennismuir, but he had played for his Stirling prior to that and scored a few goals. He was always kind of on the radar, but I felt that with yourself, with Gary, I know that Yano could play up front as well. There was players who could play, and Davy Greenhill, another one, who could play as a 10 or play up front if you asked him to play there. There was plenty of cover there. But
never asked me, John.
Sorry?
You never asked me to play up front.
We covered that bit earlier on there when we were talking about all my key players were at the back, don't worry, Grant. But the players that we had were certainly good enough to cover that, but I think his goals were instrumental, and obviously icing on the cake is scoring the goal against Arbroath in the second last game of the season to win the league. I mean, that was fantastic for him, personally. Quite a quiet guy here. He was a kind of, he's went into management. He's never a guy I thought would ever go into management. I think you might back me up this, Kevin. I think Dyak ended up managing Socky and one or two other places.
He was at Socky. He's through in, I think he's at East Kilbride.
He's gone to East Kilbride. This is the juniors one. We're the juniors.
I mean, so he's in the full makeup of the players. I mean, Dyak was one you had to put your arm around all the time, and it was always a case of, trying to make him feel as good about himself as possible with other players. And there was different ways of working, in terms of the relationships with the players and making sure you got the best out of them. Keeping Kevin. I would actually took Kevin home with me on a Friday night to make sure I knew where he was on a Saturday at one point. To lock him up. There you go. That's it. But everybody's different. But Dyak was one that his goals obviously were instrumental, as I said, and it was great for him personally to score the goal and made all the difference for us in that game.
What was the build-up to that game like, John?
We tried to keep things as normal as possible. There was nothing different in terms of what we did pre-match. We did nothing different in terms of what we did in the training part. And, this thing about part-time football and training, and again, Kevin and Grant will be able to back this up. You've got the guys for an hour and a half on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and on a Saturday. A lot of my work is done on a Saturday prior to the game in terms of the organisation, with a whiteboard in front of me, trying to explain how we want to play. You'll have hopefully had enough time on a Thursday to do some of that work and try and get your message across. But it's so far removed from full-time football where you're actually looking for things to do to fill your days. When you're in part-time football, you're trying to get as much information in as you can and then try and disseminate it to people and keep them interested. And again, going back to Kevin, who's now doing it, you know, it's one of these ones. If he's talking directly to a player, then the other 10 are sometimes there and a different player, they're switched off. So it's trying to make sure that you pick through the information you've got in the opposition and make sure that you pick the most important stuff out and relay that to your players and make sure they go in the park knowing exactly what their job is. But also the underlying message always has to be, it's all about winning. And I know we've referred to that game against Arbroath being a poor spectacle. It didn't make a bit of difference to anybody at Berwick because the history books will always show that we won the match. It didn't matter how good the game was, how entertaining it was. It was all about just making sure you scored one more goal, and they did. So we did that, and you know, I'm the same as you guys. I didn't think it was a great game to watch. You know, to be perfectly honest, I was shitting myself, but we managed to get there. By the way, that's a lot of shit, but it was difficult to watch. You know, we didn't perform as we really would have liked to on the day. We had a big crowd there, and I was very aware of wanting to make sure that we kept that crowd with us into the new season. You know, I think it was 2,000-3,000 at the game that day. I don't know the exact attendance. The place was busting at the seams. The atmosphere was great. If you know, we won the league, which was good, but if we could have really just kept them with us with a great performance, and that might have helped generate bigger crowds into the new season. That didn't quite happen. But the whole thing was about winning a football match, and that's what we managed to do. But the build up to it was pretty normal. I didn't see any point in doing anything other than that. Just making sure that we kept the guys on the same keel, doing the same thing, trying to get the same message into them, and hopefully get the same level of performance as we had done in the previous games.
Just saying that kind of confirms what David Greenhill and I were talking about, and John and his team talks last week, that it was in black and white, Johnny. There was no grey areas. Everybody knew their job, what you expected of them, and that was it. There was no muddy water. It was just crystal clear. That's what you done. That's what you done. Granty, win your headers, win your tackles, and it was very, very simple, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had information. I always worked with a match report, and I was lucky enough to have people that were doing or making sure that I was getting good information in the opposition. So I could, and sometimes I actually went overboard on that. I always felt that it was a case of your part-time football players or it's a part-time dressing room guys. They want to get the strip on. They want to get out there. They want to go and play. They don't want to be bogged down in the tactical side of it and standing, you know, listen to me droning on for an hour like I'm doing now, and rattling on about what left winger can do what, you know, where the pros and cons of the opposition are. But that to me was important. So I had to try and make sure that I got the balance right in terms of how we were going to play, but equally what the opposition were going to do. And hopefully you get that right enough times, and you start to get results to back it up, and then there's a belief in what you're saying is true, and that's a big thing for the manager. For the first statement he makes to a player, if there's no faith in them, you're finished. So it's important that you're honest with them, that you are clear, that you do everything as Haynes says, that there are no grey areas, that you make sure that everybody is absolutely aware of their job in the team. And if you can get that going, you get enough people in the park getting that going every Saturday, then you've got a chance.
Grant, how was it for you that week?
It was a bit surreal. It was different for me, obviously, not featuring in that game. I came on as a late substitute. I passed a late fitness test. I've been struggling, I think, with a calf injury prior to that game, and maybe throughout that season. It was sort of in its head.
Granty, I heard you were totally fit, but John told the physio to make sure you were injured.
Cross Channel Ferry.
Aye. John gave her a bung to say, tell Granty he's injured.
Probably. No, I was on the bench, but again, much like what Chris said and John, it wasn't, and Kevin, it wasn't a great spectacle of football in terms of the game, and wanting to win that game so badly, it seemed to take forever. It dragged on and on and on, and yeah, it was mixed feelings for myself. Obviously, really wanted to be on the pitch and play my part, but I think each and every player in that team on that day and that squad throughout the season, played their part from start to finish. a fantastic day. It was, the crowd, as John says, I think it was over 3,000 people there. Yeah, to win it for guys who'd been there, like myself and Gary and Yano, and not just been there, but played for, a long time at that level, to win, to eventually win something was a feat in itself, because a lot of guys will go through their career at lower leagues or in the high levels of football and not win any accolades. So to win that league winners medal was something to relish, and probably more so for myself as well, the fact that I got to lift the trophy with my best friend Robbie. Robbie and I, as you probably know, go back to school days, and even when we left school we went to Hearts together. So yeah, we've been side by side for such a long time, so it was extra special to lift the trophy with him, and obviously again very close with Gary O'Connor. So yeah, it was a fantastic day for all involved.
Mark, what's your memories of the game itself, or the day?
The day, certainly in the build-up and afterwards, which maybe we'll come on to as well, I guess it was electric. You know what I mean? I think that after we'd won away at Albion the previous Saturday, I think the build-up that week in amongst the fan base and the town and everything was electric, like nothing I've ever experienced. I think what you knew in terms of the attendance was that, some of the more part-timers at the time, or perhaps those that had been less involved through the season, were likely to turn up. And I think that official attendance that we recorded of just under 3,000 or whatever was kind of testament to that. You had people coming in from left, right and centre ready to watch it. And I think in the morning and the afternoon before the game was a great feeling. You know what I mean? I think everybody's nervous, don't get me wrong. We knew it was kind of win or bust in the context of the league potentially, and are we end up going to go back into the playoffs, or what's that going to look like, really, to be honest. But the build up was fantastic around the town. Everybody was really feeling it, really enjoying it. And I think, to echo the feelings of some of the other guys, I think the game, pretty much delayed kickoff, Ian Diak goal, final whistle, and that's pretty much about it, I think. And I've even seen, when you go looking through the archives, there's this still image kind of kicking around of me with my head in my hands, like my face covered completely at one point during the game, whether that be with the offside goal or anything that was happening at the time. The nerves were jangling something unreal during the game. I think the goal was sort of 20 minutes in or something like that, I think, and that helped everybody a little bit. But as everybody knows in football, you often feel like one's never enough. Arbroath are coming at us. They were buoyed by a really big away following, and we knew they were a capable side as well, So I think everybody spent the entirety of the rest of the game in what was a packed Duckett, squeezed in, really quite nervous and tense, and just absolutely willing the final whistle from probably about 60 minutes onwards, I think.
You're right, I couldn't remember the sending off. I couldn't remember Aaron Brazil being sent off at the end of the game by his second booting until I read it this week.
Yep.
I'd forgot about that, just reminded us. That's right, I got sent off later on.
I remember during that game, just what you're saying there, Mark, about when we scored early. When we scored early, I knew we were never getting beat that day, because we had won so many games 1-0 that season, and the boys at the back, we were good defensively as a side, and I've went on about that a few times, as John, that we had a banky four, and we had a narrow banky four in front of that, and it was very, very difficult to break down, and we won a lot of games 1-0. So when we went 1-0 up, I thought it was just so comfortable, and I was just so confident. I'm the one that gets nervous anyway, but it didn't seem on the pitch. It didn't seem it was a nervous place. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think we needed the cool, calm heads on the pitch anyway for that regard, because there was plenty of nerves on the sidelines, clearly from everybody else. And I think that came through. I think whilst there was the offside goal, I think from memory, I don't think we ever looked in huge danger. You know what I mean? Whilst it was probably, in what we've all acknowledged, a fairly scrappy affair in terms of the flow of the game, I think we probably controlled ourselves reasonably well on the pitch.
I mean, Kevin says we had some really good defensive performances that year, and you're right about the 1-0 thing. It just seemed to be that we could churn, if we got the first goal, we could churn out a result. And that was another one, And Robbie Horn, Grant, Jordan Smith, the guys that played at the back, were absolutely fantastic. Gary Woods had to play a couple of games there at times, things like that. But defensively, the Gary O'Connor behind them were fantastic. I think Chris Flockhart played a few games as well. That's when Gary was out in one period. But, really
You had Dodd filling in at centre half as well, John, didn't you?
Say again, sorry?
I'm saying we also had Dodd Fraser filling in at centre half a few times.
Dodd's one that goes under the radar, but you're talking about the tactical side, you have a tight four in midfield. And, well, I don't think we were ever the biggest side. If you remember back to that game, I know it's difficult to remember, but our both were a big, powerful side. And I was always aware of the thought that we could lose goals at set plays. But I never thought that they would outwork us. And the Dodd Frasers and the Thompsons, players like that, Robbie Manson's, guys like that, their work rate was phenomenal, really, really phenomenal. And what they lacked in structure, they made up for in work rate, their ability to play. But it was nerve-wracking for the touchline looking at it. It can't be anything else. The adrenaline's, it's like your watch stopped and the adrenaline's flowing the full time. You're just thinking, one mistake and we're back in it again. And, the season we had prior to that obviously come to such a disappointing climax that you think, Christ, one mistake and that's us, we could be back there again. But thankfully it wasn't to be. And I think we actually finished the game fairly comfortably, and obviously Brazil helped along the way, we getting sent off. But they lost their cool, there's no two ways about that. After the disallowed goal, I don't think it was offside, I think it was a foul on Gary O'Connor. I think somebody had fouled Gary.
It was a foul.
It was a foul. I'm not sure it was a foul, to be perfectly honest. I think that towards the end of the game, we were counting down the time and making a few passes and actually just seeing out the match, which I thought was good on our part. And, so the celebrations after that followed it. I saw a bit on YouTube this morning, a 33-second clip of a pitch invasion at Berwick. I don't think there's been too many of them, to be perfectly honest. You couldn't see any of the players after that. It was, I shouldn't say this, but quite pleasing to see our both players trooping off with their heads down, But it was great. It was great. Even for that perspective, somebody's filmed it obviously, and watching that little clip of people just, unbridled celebration was absolutely fantastic. Brought it all back.
There's a great picture of Grant with P after the game. I don't know if you've seen it, but that's part of the YouTube footage too. Yeah.
I've got that picture saved in the house. Yeah, a special picture. Special guy, as we all know, Mr. Berwick. Yeah, had a great bond and relationship with P. He looked after me, as he did probably every player that came and left through Berwick's doors. He was some man. Yeah, and yeah, it's a very, very special picture, that one.
They're the first people I look at after the event, and I went to shake. I remember going to shake John McGlashan's hand because I know he was in exactly the same position I was. There was only two managers there that day, and both of us wanted to win the league, and somebody had to be a loser that day. And unfortunately, it was a really nice guy, and unfortunately for John, it was not his turn. I shook his hand, but my thoughts go to people like P. Oliver and Dennis McCleary, and Robert Johnston on the door, and even Robert Wilson, the chairman, who was there at the time, who was taking a lot of flack in the town from various factions and all the rest of it, but did the job that was expected of a chairman. He made sure that his club won the league. So there was a lot of people to thank, and a lot of people that I was very thankful for that we actually managed to achieve it. But I'm glad that you've touched on P. Oliver, because he's a very, very special man in there. The place is never the same. When you walk in, you don't see his big demon face when you walk in the door, even when he was giving you a row, you felt, I got a few rows off him. When you get a row off him, he still made you laugh, So he's a sad, sad loss. But there's some stalwarts down there, some guys that, the Dennis McClearys who still going strong at his age. It's fantastic that they're still attached to the club at the age they are and still going well, but that was a special time for everybody there.
At full time, John, was it more relief or was it celebration that you felt?
No, it was relief. It was relief. I'm not going to deny that. It was relief. As I say, I went straight to a couple of my backroom staff had tried to jump on me, and I just, no, because I went straight to McGlashan and just shook his hand. As my recollection anyway. After that, there was a bit of celebration, but no, that was it. I mean, even I remember, one of the memories I have, I think the boys, I was actually reading a bit of Chris's book, as I said earlier on, and a lot of it, I think it was Grant and a few of the boys had went up to the Dean Tavern in Newton Grange to Gary O'Connor's dad's party. Well, we stayed in Berwick to celebrate, have a few drinks, and we ended up in a nightclub called Bedrocks, which will be pretty well known to the listeners. And and everybody was having a ball, and it was early hours of the morning, and I'd hardly had a drink. I'd been talking to the press, talking to this person, that person, the whole shooting match. And I was actually sliding down the wall. And people say, "You okay?" It's just tiredness. The whole occasion just got the better of me. And I was literally sliding down the wall, just like, get me out of here. I've just got to go to my bed, wake up tomorrow and pick the papers up and make sure it all happened. It was a great time. But the sense of relief and that it was over. I mean, the following week against Stennismuir didn't really matter. I actually have this recollection of a person not too far away from us right now on this podcast who I think managed to find a fancy dress suit somewhere. And at some point during my team talk, the toilet door burst open and Superman jumped into the room.
Another one of my silly moments, Johnny.
It didn't make any difference at that time. Anyway,
I think was the Berwick fans not doing a fancy dress day at Stennismuir or something like that. Calvin Shand was going to a fancy dress party, had been to a fancy dress party, and he had a Superman outfit in his boot. So I kind of snuck it on under my tracksuit, and it didn't go well with the gaffer, I didn't think.
I wanted to win the game, to be fair. I'm saying it didn't matter. I wanted to win the game, but I think it was more the point about Stennismuir, and we did obviously this, this thing with the players going there and whatnot. There was obviously this feeling that you wanted to beat them. So I was disappointed we didn't win the football match, but in context of the season, it didn't really make much difference.
Mark, can you remember that night in Bedrock?
Can, mostly, anyway. I certainly remember being jogged in my memory by John a few weeks later in the town hall. I think in one of the last podcasts you mentioned the mayor's reception that was held for the players, which I think happened a few weeks after the season had finished, and everybody was invited up to the town hall, and I was asked to go as part of the trust committee at the time. And I remember John reminding me of our antics at the time in one of the two nightclubs. I think perhaps we'd been in both Bedrocks and what was Cashmere at the time. And I think as John has already mentioned, in terms of experience, we were all feeling, one, the effects of a long day of celebration, but secondly the kind of release of relief, because clearly we'd been running it tight for a number of weeks into the end of the season, and I think the elation was kind of clear in everybody, and there was a huge pack of people that were still kind of left in the town in the nightclubs at the time. So I can remember elements of hugging, jumping on, or all of the above with John. I think. Was that the mayor's reception where Grant was cutting about the town hall with a can of lager? That would be the very one.
We'd go off the bus on the way back up from Newcastle, and Grant, had been the sensible captain, was probably one of the only ones talking about a can of beer when the mayor was trying to congratulate us.
I don't recollect that at all. Are you sure it was me?
Must have been.
More than likely be you or Mr. O'Connor, I would say.
Maybe it was, if it wasn't you, it was Gary. It was somebody high up in the status of the squad.
Sure, I would have had a bit more etiquette than
somebody that should have been setting examples, and they weren't.
Well, if it was me, I do apologise.
Apologise to the mayor, not to me.
Good stuff. I don't have anything more that I would like to ask. So, is there anything that you want to ask each other, or any questions that you've got?
I'd just like to say thanks to the guys for what was a fabulous season. For everybody, our supporters, everybody involved, that's the stuff that memories is made of, There are legends, there always will be. In my eyes, that side, one of the best side, Berwick side I can remember, the time I followed them.
I'd echo that. I think it was the best, it's my best football memory, that day and going up, so thanks for giving me that.
Oh, I'd agree completely. I think legends.
It's nice to hear
that.
Who
was writing the book, Chris?
We decided it was done very much at short notice. We won the league that night, and what you've got to remember back then was there was very little footage of games. Probably outside the top two divisions, the in-house kind of recording of games was maybe still 2 or 3 seasons away. So we thought it would be a good idea to do something so it was there for just like we're talking about now, 13 years on, it's there. So we're talking about it the night we won the league. It would be a good thing to do. It would be there for history's sake. the trust, it couldn't have happened without the trust. They basically spoke to Paul Smith that was involved with the trust and John Bell, and said, what about doing the book? And it sounded a good idea. And then they come back to us about a week later saying, well, we really need to do it now. We want to try and catch, obviously, everybody when the town's still full of euphoria and like the role. So it was basically, they wanted it together in about a month or so. So it was a little bit of pressure writing it, but it was great from a supporter's point of view. You know, it's good times. We decided it wasn't going to be all about me writing it. Obviously, I've got a lot of you lads involved. Robbie, Kevin, yourself, Grant, Gary O'Connor, John, the coaching staff. You know, it was their memories over the season. It wasn't just, you know, about what I wrote. It was, you were the guys that was part of it. So it was you know, your memories, your recollections of them, well, the 2 seasons. Because I thought, from a personal point of view, the previous season was a good season too. And it would have been a shame, you know, not to have kind of recorded that. I know we didn't get the ending that we hoped we would get. But again, it was a special story after going so close to the previous season and to bounce back and to do it in the style we did. It was a great story. I mean, I loved it, every minute, enjoying writing it and doing everything that we had to do with it. It was, you know, it was a pleasure doing it. And it's nice that it's still there all these years later for all to remember.
Good.
There was some great stories and all. I mean, ones that we didn't know about at the time. Robbie told us a good story that you'll probably remember. There was a kid from Arbroath going on, posting pictures of broken bottles and lorries crashing with, was it milk tankers with milk bottles and all this. And little did we know, apparently, I believe he was pinning them up before the dressing room as a kind of a motivation to you guys.
I do remember something of that story. There was, it was one of the websites or something like that. I don't know if it would, John will maybe know, but I don't know if it was a tactic that came from John or if Robbie took it off his own back. But I do remember.
I can't remember that at all, to be honest. I read that, but I couldn't remember it happening. But there's nothing strange in me not remembering anything my age, you know.
I think it might have been just a couple of games leading up to it. Possibly, I think the Albion game might have been the one. I think we dropped points. Was it the Elgin game? Maybe it was the week before, a couple of weeks before, and that was when he'd started. And I know Robbie was saying, I'm sure it was like he had gone out to do your warm up, and he pinned all these around the dressing room. I, funnily enough, went on holiday after all that, after the championship win. And my first day at the pool, I landed down with my championship winning shirt on. There's 2 families from Arbroath there, like. So I know how I would have felt the previous season if it had been a bus of like Cowden Beath fans had arrived celebrating, like so. But obviously, I relayed the story to them that thanks to your man and Pie and Breville, who went a good way to helping the cause by egging on the boys, putting the broken bottles down and Pie and Breville, because they went all over the dressing room wall. But no, it was great. It was great. Happy days. Hopefully, we'll get them back.
Yeah. Pressure's on, Kev. Pressure's on now.
It's nice to hear these comments that you guys have said, and you know, being still held in such high regard. Because I can like to think, speaking for other players on that day, it meant as much to me and other guys as it does to you guys. So yeah, it's nice to still hear these comments being made.
There's only ever 2 championship winning sides been there, Grant, you know. So
yeah,
all them years. The previous one was 1979 or something like that. Like so, you know, you're in the same esteem as them guys will be. Yeah. Certainly, that was before my time following Berwick. So that was Eric Tate's era and that. Like, but as far as I mean, that's my all-time team. That side, the 2006.
I think the difference for the 2 championship sides was, or the way it was won was Stuart Bell said it a few weeks ago, Adam, and it was the 79 league win was won on the back of somebody else getting beat. So it wasn't actually won at Shielfield in front of a crowd, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think he was sitting in his house and somebody else had got beat, and that's how they won the league that way. So I think the one that we were involved in has got the edge a wee bit because it was won at Shielfield.
Anyone got anything else?
No, just a bit of a shout out, I guess, to Haynes in particular around the future. I think everybody's really enthused. Even those of us that are miles away now, really just to see the good things that are going on around the club, and everybody's kind of desire to push and take things forward. I think if you look at the leadership structure now that we've got from the board, through the management and the supporters club, I think you've got a strong group of individuals now that will challenge each other in order to get the club back to where it belongs. And I'm biased and wear rose tinted specs, don't get me wrong, but I feel I still think we're a League One, League Two club outfit, and I think getting us back there without necessarily the pressure of saying it needs to come in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever that looks like. I think that the leadership that we've got in there are well placed to help us do that. I think you've got a group of individuals that won't sit and constantly pat each other on the back about each success. I think it will be onto the next challenge. What can we do to keep growing? And I think that the work that's going on behind the scenes to improve supporter engagement, community engagement, the raising of the money through the 1881 fund and the new supporters club draws that are happening, all of those sorts of things. I think that we wish everybody all the success in the world, and I'd like to have a really good excuse to come back up and take in a game in the not too distant future. So good luck to everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
And that's it for this week. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have, please like and subscribe, and you could also leave us a little review. It would be much appreciated. Thank you too to our guests Grant McNicoll, Mark Swanston, John Coughlin and Chris Sanderson. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Let It BRFC podcast. But in the meantime, stay safe everyone, and have a good week.